Welcome to a brand new episode of The Drop, the weekly show that lets you know the hottest games coming out across the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the PC, the Switch, whatever they might be coming out on, we will talk about them right here. This week is an absolutely massive week with The Last of Us Part 2 launching exclusively on the PlayStation 4, and it is one of the biggest games for the entire generation, both in terms of its significance and its install size, but that's beside the point. Additionally, we have Disintegration coming from the co-creator of Halo. On top of that, we have Desperados 3, Summer and Mara, and more. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. First off, our headliner, The Last of Us Part 2, is launching on the PlayStation 4 exclusively. 5 years after their dangerous journey across the post-pandemic United States, Ellie and Joel have settled down in Jackson, Wyoming. Living amongst a thriving community of survivors has allowed them peace and stability despite the constant threat of the infected and other more desperate survivors. When a violent event disrupts that peace, Ellie embarks on a relentless journey to carry out justice and find closure. As she hunts those responsible one by one, she is confronted with the devastating physical and emotional repercussions of her actions. A complex and emotional story. Experience the escalating moral conflicts created by Ellie's relentless pursuit of vengeance. The cycle of violence left in her wake will challenge your notions of right versus wrong, good versus evil, and hero versus villain. A beautiful yet dangerous world. Set out on Ellie's journey, taking her from the peaceful mountains and forest of Jackson to the lush, overgrown ruins of Greater Seattle. Encounter new survivor groups, unfamiliar and treacherous environments, and terrifying evolutions of the infected. Brought to life by the latest iteration of the Naughty Dog engine, the deadly characters and world are more realistic and meticulously detailed than ever before. Tense and desperate action survival gameplay. New and evolved gameplay systems deliver upon the life or death stakes of Ellie's journey through the hostile world. Feel her tense and desperate action survival gameplay. New and evolved gameplay systems deliver upon the life or death stakes of Ellie's journey through the hostile world. Feel her desperate struggle for survival through improved features such as high-intensity melee combat, fluid movement, and dynamic stealth. A broad variety of weapons, crafting items, skills, and upgrades allows you to personalize Ellie's capabilities to your playstyle. So for those that might not be aware, the development of The Last of Us Part 2 has been very tumultuous. The game has been delayed multiple times, and on top of that, now the marketing team is dealing with some leaks that got out a couple of weeks back, many of which were not true, which is skewing the public's perspective of The Last of Us Part 2. But one thing that cannot be denied is the fact that critics absolutely love this game. It is currently sitting at a 96 on Metacritic, only behind Red Dead Redemption 2 and Grand Theft Auto 5. That puts into perspective the amount of pedigree that this game is going to have. I would not be surprised if we look back and say The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be the best game that came out on the PlayStation 4, and I cannot wait to dive into it. I wasn't originally going to play it this week, but I think that I might have to after these reviews and first impressions have come out. So if you are looking forward to seeing what Ellie and Joel are up to 5 years later, The Last of Us Part 2 is launching this week on the PlayStation 4 exclusively. Next up, Disintegration is coming out on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. From V1 Interactive, the new 30-person independent development studio founded by Marcus Leto, the co-creator of Halo, comes Disintegration, a sci-fi first-person shooter combining FPS and real-time strategy elements. Set in the near future on Earth, the only hope for human survival is through integration, a process developed to preserve human brains in robotic armatures. You play as Romer Scholl, a former grav cycle pilot in command of a small resistance force still grasping on to the fading memories of their human selves. With the domineering Rayon forces set on eliminating the final remnants of human society, it is up to Romer and his crew of outlaws to find back and reboot humanity. Pilot a variety of weaponized grav cycles and command your crew on the ground by leveraging a variety of unique unit abilities and mastery of your own personal arsenal to dominate the battle. This game right off the bat has a lot going for it. Of course, it is combining two very different elements, FPS and RTS, but I think they could work well with some projects that we've seen in the past kind of making that setup work. Additionally, the pedigree of the creator of this, the co-creator of Halo, one of the biggest names in the Halo Reach production, this is going to be a very important project, although I will say if you do depend on reviews for your impressions, it seems this one is landing generally a 6 or a 7 out of 10. I love the vibe of it, I love the concept of it, but I don't know if this is going to be the fully featured experience that people would want from Disintegration right off the bat. It is worth checking out though, if you do want to dive in. Again, Disintegration is coming out this week on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. Next up we have Desperados 3 coming out on the PS4, the Xbox Xbox One and the PC. It is a story-driven, hardcore tactical stealth game set in a ruthless Wild West scenario. In this long-awaited prequel to the beloved classic Desperados, Want the Dead or Alive, John Cooper will join forces with the runaway bride Kate, the shady hitman Doc McCoy, and the giant trapper Hector, and Isabel, a mysterious lady from New Orleans. On Cooper's quest for redemption, his adventures will lead him and his gang from rural towns over swamps and riverbanks, and finally to a dramatic showdown worthy of Wild West legends. Play smart if you want to succeed. A good plan can make the difference between survival and finding yourself at the business end of a pistol. So as you can see from the gameplay, this is essentially a tactical western game where you have a map filled with enemies and you have to take them out in whatever way you see fit. Sometimes you'll drop a boulder, sometimes you'll shoot them, sometimes you'll hide their body in grass and wait for their friend to walk by. It's that kind of game. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, or if you were a fan of Desperados, Want the Dead or Alive, then by all means you can. Check out Desperados 3 when it launches this week on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. Next up we have Summer in Mara coming out on the Nintendo Switch and the PC. This game got a bit of a spotlight over the weekend during the Guerrilla Collective. Summer in Mara is a summer adventure with farming, crafting, and exploring mechanics set in a tropical archipelago. Summer in Mara is a single-player experience in a calm, relaxing environment with a handmade look and an exciting narrative. You will be Koa, a little adventurer girl who wants to explore the world that surrounds her. In Summer in Mara, you will have to take care of your own island, harvest your crops, create new tools and buildings, and sail with your boat to discover new islands and secrets. This is, just as the description reads, a very relaxing, open-world exploration game, essentially, where you have to manage this little island. It sounds like a very enjoyable time. It's kind of like combining Breath of the Wild with Animal Crossing. Is that too much? Perhaps it is. But if that sounds like something you might be interested in, Summer in Mara is launching this week on the Nintendo Switch and the PC, and it does have quite a bit of charm if you want to check out some gameplay. And to round out today's show, we have NAMCO Museum Archives Volumes 1 and 2 coming on the PS4, the Xbox One, the Switch, and the PC. Gathering Namco's hits and long-lost treasures, each volume of NAMCO Museum Archives features 10 historic arcade hits such as Pac-Man and Galaga, and also includes some classics that were never before released in the West, such as Dragon Spirit, New Legend, and Mappy Land. Developed in partnership with BB Studios, NAMCO Museum Archives takes the retro gaming experience to the modern consoles with new features for improved playability, including rewind, save points, and widescreen support. Of course, what are the games we are going to be getting? NAMCO Museum Archives Volume 1 includes Galaxian, Pac-Man, Xevious, Mappy, Dig Dug, The Tower of Druaga, Sky Kid, Dragon Buster, Dragon Spirit The New Legend, Splatterhouse, Wanpaku Graffiti, and an 8-bit demaster of Pac-Man Championship Edition. NAMCO Museum Archives Volume 2 will feature Galaga, Battle City, Pac-Land, Dig Dug 2, Super Xevious, Mappy Land, Legacy of the Wizard, Rolling Thunder, Dragon Buster 2, Mendel Palace, and an 8-bit consoleized version of Gapless. Growing up, NAMCO was a name that was always near and dear to my heart because I played the collections and the museums and the archive, all these big collections that come out of NAMCO games. They've always been something that have been around for me. Now, looking at NAMCO Museum Archives Volumes 1 and 2, I would not recommend this if you are not really a hardcore old school kind of player, because these are a lot of niche games. Of course, you do have your big names like Pac-Man, Galaxian, and Dig Dug, but outside of that, you have some that are a bit more of a buried treasure sort of approach here. But if you are a fan of these, or you want to experience arcade classics with a new coat of paint, or in the case of Pac-Man Championship Edition, an older coat of paint, you can check out NAMCO Museum Archives Volumes 1 and 2 when they launch on the PS4, the Xbox One, the Switch, and the PC later on this week. Before we conclude, we do have some honorable mentions, and a good many of them at that. Dead by Daylight is getting the Silent Hill expansion content coming on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Edna and Harvey, the Breakout 10th Anniversary Edition, is coming out on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Switch. Cold Canyon is coming out on the Xbox One, the Switch, and the PC. Daymare 1998 is coming out on the PS4, and Descenders is coming to the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of The Drop. If you did, drop me a like down below and let me know what games you are going to be picking up this week. Are you going to get The Last of Us Part 2? Maybe you have been very much so looking forward to Disintegration, Desperados 3 perhaps, or did you fall in love with Summer in Mara during last week's Guerrilla Collective? Would love to hear your thoughts. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.